If Hertz were hares, we'd all look like grizzlies. I mean, even the smooth-skinned beauties of the magazine covers and the composed pastors in the pulpit, the sweet little old lady who lives next door, all of them, all of us, furry, hairy beasts we'd become. If Hertz were hares, we'd be lost behind the thick of them. Think about it. Aren't there so many Hertz? When kids mock the way you walk, their insults hurt. When teachers ignore your work, their neglect hurts. When your girlfriend drops you, when your husband abandons you, when the company fires you, it hurts. Rejection always does. And as surely as the summer brings rain, so people bring pain. Sometimes deliberately and sometimes randomly. Victoria Ruvalo can tell you a little bit about random pain. On a November evening in 2004, this 44-year-old New Yorker was driving to her home on Long Island. She had just attended her niece's recital, and she was ready for the couch, a warm fire and some relaxation. She doesn't remember seeing the silver Nissan approach from the east, and she remembers nothing of the 18-year-old boy leaning out of the window, holding, of all things, a frozen turkey. He threw it at her windshield. The 20-pound bird crashed through the glass, bent the steering wheel inward, shattered her face like a dinner plate on concrete. This violent prank left her grappling for life in ICU. She survived, but only after doctors wired her jaw, affixed one eye by synthetic film, and bolted titanium plates to her cranium. She can't even look in the mirror without a reminder of her hurt. Now, you weren't hit by a turkey, but you married one, worked for one, got left by one. Now, where do you turn? Hitman.com? Jim Beam and Friends Pity Party Catering Service? Jesus has a better idea. He invites us to turn to John chapter 13. It's the chapter in the Bible that records some of the final events before Jesus' death. He and his followers had gathered in the upper room for a Passover celebration. And John begins his narrative with this lofty statement. Jesus knew that the Father had given him authority over everything, and that he had come from God and would return to God. Jesus knew the who, and he knew the why of his life. Who was he? God's Son. Why was he on earth? To serve the Father. Jesus knew his identity. He knew his authority. So, look at this. He got up from the table, he took off his robe, he wrapped a towel around his waist, and he poured water into a basin, and he began to wash the disciples' feet and to wipe them with the towel he had around him. Jesus, CEO, head coach, king of the world, sovereign of the seas, Jesus washed feet. I'm not a fan of feet. Look you in the face, I will. Shake your hand, I'll do so. Put an arm around your shoulders, I'll do it. Rub a tear from a child, in a heartbeat. But touch feet? Come on. Feet stink. Have you noticed that no one creates a cologne named Athlete's Foot Deluxe or Gym Sock Musk? Feet are not known for their sweet smell, nor their good looks. The businessman never keeps a framed photo of his wife's feet on his desk. And grandparents don't show pictures of their grandchildren that are ankle down. Aren't these the cutest little feet you've ever seen? You never see that. We want to see the face, not the feet. And there's a reason. Feet have heels, toenails, bunions, fungus, corns, calluses. Feet have plantar warts, some big enough to warrant their own zip code. And feet have those little bitty piggies that go wee, wee, wee all the way home. Forgive me you people of the ped, you society of the soul, you fan of feet, I am not numbered among you. Feet smell bad, they look ugly, which I believe is the very point of this story. You see, Jesus touched the stinky, ugly parts of his disciples, knowing that he came from God, knowing he was going to God, knowing he could arch an eyebrow or clear his throat and every angel in the universe would snap to attention, knowing that all authority was his. What did he do? He took on the servant's wrap. He lowered himself to knee level and he began to scrub away the grime and the grit and the grunge that their feet had collected on the journey. And Jesus didn't exclude a single follower, not even Judas. Judas, that lying, conniving, greedy rat who was just a few hours from selling him down the river for a pocket of cash. Jesus won't wash his feet, right? You know, I sure hope not, because if he washes the feet of Judas, then you and I need to wash the feet of our Judas, our betrayer, our ne'er-do-well, our good-for-nothing villain. Jesus' Judas walked away with 30 pieces of silver, and your Judas walked away with your security, your spouse, your childhood, your virginity, your retirement, and your investments. You expect me to wash his feet and let him go? Well, most people don't. Most people don't. They use their villain's photo as dart target, and they just blow up every now and then. They live with this low-grade resentment, this anger. Most people keep a pot of anger on low boil. But you aren't most people, are you? Grace is happening to you. After all, look at your feet. They are wet. They are grace-soaked. Your toes, your arches, your heels, your soul has felt the cool basin of God's grace. And Jesus has touched the grimiest parts of your life. He did not bypass you. He did not carry the basin towards someone else. He has given you ample grace. And his question to you is, can you not share some of that grace with others? He said this to the disciples, since I, the Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you ought to wash each other's feet. I have given you an example to follow. Do as I have done to you. You see, to accept grace is to accept the vow to give it. Victoria Ruvalo did. 9 months after her disastrous November night, she stood face to titanium bolted face with her offender in court. Ryan Cushing was no longer the cocky kid in the Nissan. He was trembling, he was tearful, he was apologetic, and for New York City, he had come to symbolize a generation of kids out of control. People packed the courtroom to see him get his comeuppance. The judge's sentence, well, it enraged them. Only 6 months behind bars, 5 years of probation, some counseling, and public service. The courtroom erupted. Everyone was angry. Everyone, that is, except Victoria Ruvalo, because the reduced sentence was her idea. The boy walked over and she embraced him. And in full view of the judge and the crowd, she held him tight and she stroked his hair and she said, I forgive you. I want your life to be the best it can be. She allowed grace to shape her response. What about you? You can build a prison of hate if you want. Each brick a hurt. You can design your jail cell with a single bunk because you're not going to attract many roommates. You can hang large video screens on each of the 4 walls, and you can watch recorded images of your offense play over and over and over 24 hours a day. Put headphones on if you want. Is that appealing? That's appalling. Listen, harbored grudges suck the joy out of life. Revenge will not paint your sky blue. It will not restore the spring in your step. It will leave you bitter, bent, and angry. Why don't you just give the grace that you've been given? You don't endorse the deeds of your offender when you do so, no. Grace is not blind. It sees the hurt. It sees the hurt full well. But grace chooses to see God's forgiveness even more. And grace refuses to let hurts poison the heart. The Bible says, see to it that no one misses the grace of God, and that no bitter root grows up to cause trouble and defile many. You see, where grace is lacking, bitterness abounds. But where grace abounds, forgiveness grows. Let it abound in your heart.